morning. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching the F&O Show on BloombergQuint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza.
Good morning, Navneet. I'm Agam Vakil. Let's start by taking a look at the headlines. Markets begin the new trading week on a positive note. The Nifty makes a new intraday record and remains above the 12,300 mark. Open interest is rising in Ramco Cement and L&T Finance Holdings towards fresh longs. Infosys is the top gainer on the Nifty after its third quarter results. It is also the top point contributor to the Nifty upside. And Yes Bank is the top loser on the Nifty. The bank will now raise 10,000 crore rupees through various options.
All right, those are your top headlines at this side. Let's quickly tell you what's happening with the markets. And it's been a strong start to the week, as we highlighted in the headline that Nifty's touched fresh highs in today's trade, though we are off a little bit from the opening highs at least. Nifty right now sitting at levels of 12,318. It's a gain of nearly 60 points. Sensex also sitting with gains of about 200 points. And Nifty Bank trading above the mark of 32,200. Remember, markets have been moving higher, but since Friday, India VIX has not cooled off. And it's just 2 weeks to go for the union budget. Historically, we do see VIX inching higher ahead of such crucial events. So India VIX, though the markets are sitting with 0.5% gains, you are seeing gains coming up for India Volatility Index as well. In terms of broader markets, the gains are seen across the board, so that's a healthy sign. Mid-cap as well as small-cap indices have registered gains this morning, and slight outperformance seen vis-a-vis the frontline indices. The market breadth should also come up on your screen, telling you what's happening with the entire listed universe. And the breadth is firmly in favor of the advances. The ratio is nearly 2:1. In terms of sectoral indices, you are seeing gains coming across the board, with Nifty IT gaining about 1.2%, and the gains are being led by Infosys today. And besides that, I think just a muted session is coming for auto, which was rallying in the last 3 or 4 sessions, is seeing some cool off, maybe some profit booking kicking in here. Quickly then, on the level side, what sort of levels you should watch out on for this Thursday expiry in terms of distribution? Now, we've already scaled past that level of 12,300 on Nifty. As you can see on your screen, maximum open interest on the call side is around the mark of 12,300. Now the out of the money strikes are also becoming active, and on the put side 12,200 remains pretty active in trade as well. But change-wise, I think today there is a lot of put riding which is coming at 12,300 strike. As you can see on your screen, almost 10 to 10.5 lakh shares have been added there, while even the 12,300 call has also witnessed. There is no unwinding coming in, though we've crossed that mark. We are trading above that mark, but the call riders have not still run for cover a gum. So I think near-term range will be somewhere about 12,150, 12,200 to about 12,400 now.
Yeah, absolutely. And some very interesting, change in terms of the levels that we are keeping an eye or track on. But let's talk about some stocks which are also in focus in today's day of trade on the back of change in open interest. So we do have Tata Global Beverages, which is right at the top of the list. It's advances. The longs there. There's Colgate-Palmolive, which is also looking at longs. Ramco Cement is advancing in trade. NIT Technologies, along with Infosys, all of them are looking at an open interest increase of anywhere between 8.5% to 18.5%. So certainly turning out to be a very good day of trade for some of these counters moving and advancing. Of course, even as the Nifty 50, is trading at new life highs along with the Sensex. Let's talk about stocks which are seeing unwinding, not too much here, except for JSPL, which is looking at a decline of 1% in open interest. But otherwise, it's largely, Infosys, of course, is something that we are going to talk about. And besides that, what else are we tracking today, Navneet?
Well, it has to be Infosys, Agam, as you already highlighted. If you could just pull up the Nifty contributors list. Remember, Infosys has 5% weightage on the index, so that's the biggest point contributor, as we were highlighting. Nearly 30-point gain is coming solely because of Infosys. Okay, then on the show, of course, one stock will be Infosys that we will take view from our experts. The stock has rallied nearly 3.5% to 4%, and some action coming in around the 800 call strike. Earnings were in line, and major positive coming. The company has received clean chit from the auditors with regard to the whistleblower complaint. And the other one, Ramco Cement, the South-based cement companies are in focus. Some reports indicating they could take another price hike this week itself. And the last stock that we want to discuss is L&T Finance Holdings, which has been trading above all its key moving averages. The stock's in focus after UBS has initiated coverage for the buy rating with the target price of 165.
Okay, well, it's time to get in our experts for today, but before that, here's a reminder. If you have any queries regarding futures and options markets, you can call us on 022454044141, or of course, write to us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube with the AskBQ hashtag. Today, we have with us Amar Singh of Angel Broking and Nirav Chheda of Nirmal Securities joining us on the show. Good morning to both of you. Thanks for taking the time out. Nirav, I start with you. Well, benchmarks are at life highs. Where do we go from here?
Yeah. Good morning, Agam and Navneet. The open interest in Nifty continues to be low. The trend continues to be positive. The PCR is at comfortable levels. The VIX around the 13-14 levels is still comfortable, though it is likely to rise because of the budget event. But overall the trend does suggest that Nifty is headed upwards towards the 12,500 odd levels. The writing says it all as well. So at this point of time, even though everything is positive, I'll still like to play a strategy here, because the VIX is likely to rise. It is majorly because of the budget. Whenever the budget comes, the VIX shoots up towards the 16-17 levels. It has already done that in this month itself, but it came down drastically in the last week. I think it is headed upwards again. So, it is better to be hedging your positions if you are, long on stocks or the index. At this point of time, doing a long straddle seems a very good strategy with the VIX at around 14 odd levels. Buying the 12,350 call and put, the 16 Jan expiry series, you're buying both with a premium of around 125 points, which is very comfortable at this point of time. I believe in the next 3-4 days till expiry, generally, you'll see about a 150-200 point move on the Nifty in either direction, and that is going to help, the strategy gain good profits. So you can keep a stop loss of 75 points. So when your 125 points, comes down to about 75, that is your stop loss. And, if you gain about 100 points from here, that is your profit. That is your target. So you can keep a target of 225 points total.
Okay, that's a long straddle being advised by Nirav, and for all our viewers who don't know what the strategy is. Well, a long strangle is when one buys an at-the-money call as well as put in anticipation of increase in volatility. And as rightly highlighted by Nirav, in run-up to the budget, we are expecting the volatility to move higher. And when volatility actually increases, followed by expansion in option premium, the strategy becomes profitable. All right, moving on. Amar, good morning to you as well. Considering we are at life high levels, do you think risk reward is favorable if somebody wants to take a fresh long at current levels?
Yeah, I would say that looking technically on the charts and as per the OI data, what I can say is that technically there is still some, I would say, some concern with regard to the daily charts. So it's and also some of the indicators are clearly indicating that there could be some trendless or sideways trading. So there would be definitely, based on the India VIX also, we are likely to see increased volatility. But overall, if I look at the long-term trend, intermediate-term trend, that still remains positive. And on the long side, so the dips should be used as buying opportunity, but one needs to be cautious, definitely. As far as support levels are concerned, for Nifty, crucial support, this Nifty futures support comes at around 12,250-240 zone. That's an immediate level of support. Whereas resistance on the upside is seen around 12,400-430 zone. So ideally, dips should be used as buying opportunity, but one needs to be cautious because the daily charts are, I would say, still giving mixed signals. So one needs to be slightly cautious because of that.
Okay. Well, caution is advised, but Amar, if I can come back to you on stocks that you are looking at, what's on your radar today?
Want to look at is ICICI Bank. If we look at ICICI Bank, what we are seeing here is that the stock continues to be strong on the long-term charts. Daily charts, we are seeing some choppy trading sessions, but still, if you look at the intermediate-term trend as well, that continues to be strong and positive. So ideally, ICICI Bank is one stock one can look at buying around 540 odd levels with a stop loss of 529 and a target of 564 in the short term. And the second stock to look at is Jubilant Food. This is one stock which across all various time frames continues to be strong. Yes, it is in overbought territory in almost all time frames, but that is one very strong indication of a strong upside momentum stock. So this is one stock one can definitely look at. So currently it's trading around 1748, 1750 levels. So any pullback towards 1730, 1735 ideally can be used as a buying opportunity with a stop loss of 1688 and a target of 1822 on the upside.
Okay, so two long calls coming in from Amar, one on Jubilant and the other one on ICICI Bank futures. Nirav, what about you in terms of individual stock futures? What are you betting on?
Yep. See, both are long calls at this point of time. One is a continuation of the last week L&T. See, L&T at this point, at this structure, it is at the lower point of its channel support. It has already hit its channel around the 1300 odd levels, 1280 odd levels, and then has moved up from there. Also, the open interest suggests, a lot of shorts are covering in the last 2-3 weeks. It is gaining good strength. So I believe it is likely to move up towards the 1380, 1400 odd levels very soon. So one should be buying L&T futures at current levels with a stop loss of 1315 and a possible target of 1375. The second one is a buy call on Adani Ports. See, Adani Ports at this point of time, in the last expiry, there were a lot of shorts which were built in. That is why it went down. But now what has happened is it is very high on positions, and these shorts are now very likely to cover, and this covering will come above, it has started to come, it should come above the 390 odd levels which it has already hit. Also, one peculiarity of this stock is, whenever the 50-day moving average moves below the 200-day moving average in this particular stock, the reverse happens, the stock starts to move up, and that is what is happening. That is why I believe, this stock is likely to move up toward the 410, 420 odd levels. So, buy this stock at current levels. The stop loss for the same should be around 385. It has just crossed about the 200-day moving average, so that should also prove to be a good support area. On the upside, the target should be 410.
Okay. Well, so there you have it, some 4 ideas coming in from our experts on what they find exciting, what they find interesting today. Let's talk about Infosys then. And of course, 2 positive developments coming here. Firstly, of course, is that the audit committee has found no wrongdoings by the CEO and CFO as alleged by whistleblowers back in October of 2019. There has been a conclusion from the audit committee's investigations, and a lot of the claims have been found unsubstantiated, which is why that's the first big positive. The second one is that while the earnings were in line, the company has also hiked its revenue growth guidance for FY19, which comes in at around 10 to 10.5% against 9 to 10%. That said, to a certain extent, that was also priced in, considering a lot of analysts out there were expecting that increase in price hikes. For now, it is trading at day's highs. It's up 4%. Almost at the level of around 770 rupees per share. At least that's what the Jan futures are quoting at. And open interest has surged as much as 9%. Amar, can you come in on Infosys? What's the view from here on? Would you initiate fresh longs even at these levels, or there is some caution that needs to be taken into consideration?
Yeah, looking at Infosys, I would say the short term and the intermediate term trend remains positive. Long term, I would say it's more of a sideways trend. And I would say what we are seeing is that somewhere in the region of 775, 780 is a level of resistance for Infosys, because that was an earlier key resistance zone. So I wouldn't recommend buying around the current levels, but yes, dips can be used as buying opportunity. The stock has now formed a very strong base somewhere in the region of 730, 740 zone. So ideally, that's a very strong support zone. So the closer to the support zone one can buy, the better off, because till the time we don't see the stock consistently sustaining above 775, 780 levels, we could see some sideways movement. But yes, the trend, short-term, intermediate-term trend remains positive for Infosys.
Okay, that's the technical view on Infosys. Remember, the options of Infosys were pretty active ahead of the numbers. So 750 was a near-term resistance, which it has already crossed after a good set of numbers. And now maximum open interest is at the 800 call, which has seen a lot of fresh writing. In fact, almost 11 lakh shares have been added there. So next key resistance to be watched will be 800. All right, moving on to Ramco Cement. Then that's the other cement stock which is in focus. In fact, in the opening trade itself, we are seeing both price as well as open interest action, and the stocks also hit its 52-week high. Some reports indicating that South-based cement companies may take another price hike this week itself, and you are seeing open interest addition or gain of about 10%. Nirav, if I could come to you on Ramco, considering the outperformance from a lot of these cement companies since last week, will Ramco Cement feature in your list if somebody has to take a fresh bet?
Yeah, definitely. You know, the volumes in the last week were tremendous. There's a price volume breakout, a long-term breakout at that. So definitely, you know, Ramco Cement will be a stock in my buy list. I believe it is likely to move up towards the 855, 860 odd level. So buy this stock at current levels, also on dips towards the 820 odd level, which is a good support area. So what happens is whenever such breakouts come, you know, there is a likely chance of a retest of this breakout, and this breakout has come around the 820 odd level. So once this retest happens, you know, you will see further aggressive buying coming in from there. So definitely this stock is going to go up higher towards the 855, 860 odd levels.
Okay, that's Ramco Cement for you, and from there on we move on to, well, of course, a bunch of other stocks that we want to take into consideration, but let's talk about L&T Finance Holding, and that's the other one which is in focus. It's about its key world trading averages. It's bounced from the 200 daily moving average, and that always is considered usually as a positive. We have a broking house which is suggested, which is maintain a buy on the company and with a target of 165. So L&T Financial Services looking good for now. Finance Holdings up as much as 2%, 4% added in open interest today as well. Amar, any view on L&T Finance Holdings? What would your suggestion be on this one?
I would say that ideally, if you look at the stock has over the last few trading sessions from almost 110 levels on 6th of January, it's trading around 123, 124 right now. So this could be a good level to book profits, because 125, 126 is a very crucial zone of resistance for L&T Finance. So I would see, if you look at the long-term charts, that's a very crucial zone of resistance that's coming up. So and on the daily charts also, what we are seeing is we are not seeing very strong, I would say, bullish divergence, or we are not seeing very strong trend. So ideally 125, 126 or current levels also one should look at booking profits. Until the time we don't see the stock sustaining consistently above 126 levels, I would say that the stock could trade in a range between 125, 126 on the upside and 110, 115 on the downside.
Okay, that's L&T Finance Holdings for you. Let's start addressing some viewer queries as well. And Ravi Shankar had a query on Infosys. Ravi, we've already discussed the stock with Amar. Let me take the next query on Titan then. Tarun Arora, he's bought the 1160 call after paying a premium of about 35.5, and he wants to know what to do with this position. The stock currently trades somewhere about 1153 is the underlying, and it's slightly out of the money strike, and the premium too has fallen from his buy price as 35. Nirav, what would you suggest him to do to stay put with this position? Should he place a stop loss, hold it, or just book losses now at current levels?
See, my suggestion would be to book loss. I think Titan is headed downwards. There's a negative divergence which is taking shape on the RSI, on the longer term charts. Also, you know, the pattern has become negative. There's kind of a double top pattern. The confirmation for the same is awaited, still not come yet, but I believe it is headed downwards. The overall trend is negative. So definitely, you know, it is likely to hit 1100, 10,080 odd levels. So, you know, I don't think one should be holding on to the positions of 1160 call. Wait for some downside and then probably, you know, try to get in around the 1100 odd levels.
Okay, well, move on to Mahanagar Gas or MGL. We have a question from Abhijit Khate, and his question is on MGL's January futures, which he has bought at 1,024 rupees per share. What's happened with MGL of late is that it's come off from around levels of 1,089 in the spot price to currently at just around 1,012. That said, if you actually consider the way the stock has moved from July until now, there's been an uptrend. There is no taking away from that fact. It's been a fairly strong counter, even in the last 10 months. But notwithstanding the kind of dip that we've seen in the previous, 7, 8, or 9 sessions, that could be concerning. Amar, where do you stand here, and what would your advice be to Abhijit, who's bought MGL at 1,024?
Yeah, I would say that if you look at the short-term trend, the trend is negative, no doubt. What we are seeing on the intermediate-term trend and the long-term trend is that it still remains positive. So ideally, what he can do is last week's low is something which is going to be important. So he can hold with the stop loss below last week's low of that was 999. So somewhere in the region of 997, because MGL on the daily charts, it needs to sustain above 1,020 for any upside. But I would suggest that if he gets an opportunity to exit the stock, then he should definitely look at exiting, because 1,018.20 is a key level of resistance. If that is taken out, then it could rally towards 1,030, 1,035 odd level. So because what we are seeing on the daily charts is that it's in oversold territory, so there is a possibility of a bounce back. So he should use that bounce back to exit the stock if he gets an opportunity.
Okay, use the bounce back to exit from MGL. That's what Amar is advising. Let's take the next query on a gold financing company. That's Muthoot Finance. Harshavardhan writes to us. He's taken an option position at 740 call, which he's bought at levels of 30. And this is in the money strike, considering the underlying is trading somewhere about 750 or thereabouts. So the premium currently is just about 31. Nirav, gold financing companies have been doing well. Muthoot in particular has retreated from its all-time high levels, which we'd just seen, I guess, few days back or so. But I'm sure the long-term charts still look attractive. Would you advise him to hold on to this position?
Yeah. See, the overall trend is positive. There is no doubt about it. But, he's taken a call option, and you need to look at the near-term trend for this stock as well. Now, the problem is, there is a bearish engulf which has happened on the weekly for this particular stock. And, a bearish engulf on a high, at such a place is not a very good sign. So definitely, there's likely to be either consolidation or probably, a little bit of selling which can come in. And that is why, the call option might not give that much profit as expected. So it's better to exit positions at this point of time, wait for a week or two, let it consolidate or come down, and then, probably look to again add positions for this stock. At this point of time, just exit from the call positions.
Okay, Nirav, we have another tough question for you. We have a query from the viewer Karan Pabari, and it's on Yes Bank. At least I'm assuming this is a tough one for you. I don't know, a lot of people may find it relatively easier to, trade, because it's simply extremely volatile. What's the view here? What would your suggestion be when it comes to Yes Bank in the January series?
Yeah. See, whenever this rollover thing happens, I send out a message. I send out a message to all the clients, probably to y'all as well. I speak a lot on this, on the media as well. The stock, Yes Bank, was in my list to sell at the start of this expiry. At the 50-52 odd levels, the open interest was so high for this particular stock that there was no place for further addition of open interest. And if there is no place for further addition of open interest, that incremental buying doesn't come in for a particular stock, and which is very important for a stock to move up, that incremental buying during the expiry. And that is why you're seeing, this selling coming in. Traders have to exit positions. There is no option. The stock has been in ban for the last week or two. And, there is continuous selling, and I'm a little, I can say I'm looking at Yes Bank, and I feel, the selling hasn't been, over as yet. It's a little scared that it is going to come down towards the 35 odd levels. So if you're holding long positions, just exit positions. It might just, go below its all-time low as well.
Okay, it can go below its all-time low is what Nirav is advising. And yes, keep that in mind. The stock is still in the F&O ban period, so you can only do intraday trades. If you roll over your position, you'll be levied a penalty. And of course, it's a high beta stock and remains in focus on back of fundraising plans. And there are a lot of other stocks to take a punt on. Best to avoid something like Yes Bank. Okay, let me take a query on Tata Steel, a stock which has rebounded quite sharply since its October lows that we had seen of somewhere between 325, and the stock's currently trading at levels of 490. So we got a query coming in from one of our viewers on Tata Steel. I think he wanted to short the futures at current levels. This is from Jacob. He's already shorted at levels of 490, I guess. Yep. Amar, is it a good call to go short on a stock which has been trending higher in the recent past? Would you advise him to close this position, or do you see any sort of profit booking coming in at these levels?
See, looking at Tata Steel, what we are seeing is that the stock has definitely made a remarkable pullback from almost 320 levels in October to as high as 490 currently. However, what we are seeing on the daily charts is that there is definitely a decline in the bullish momentum. On the intermediate term trend, the weekly charts, it continues to remain strong, and on the monthly charts also we are seeing that it is reaching out to some key resistance zone. So ideally he can hold on to his position, because 503, 505 is a zone of resistance for Tata Steel. So if the stock does correct, so ideally the level to watch out for on the downside is somewhere around 488 levels or so, 488, 485. That's a crucial zone of support. If that is taken out, then the stock could witness some correction towards 470 odd levels. So he can hold on to his position with stop loss above 503.
Okay, and perhaps the final query we can take today is from Prashant. Actually, we have more. We have one from Prashant Agarwal, and it's on Bata for the weekly time frame. Well, I'm not certain is okay. All right, it's not doing too much today, and I reckon the horizon here is 1 week. And it's currently at 1761. That's where its spot price is. Amar, if I can come back to you on this one, anything that stands out for you for Bata, keeping in mind the next 4 or 5 days?
I would say that Bata is witnessing resistance around 1770 odd level. So ideally, if it doesn't take that out, then we could witness some correction in the stock towards 1680. So, but it's more of a flat trend. So I would say rather avoid the stock.
Avoid Bata India, and the next one is on Eicher Motors. Nirav, one of our viewer wants to know about call strike of Eicher, but he's not mentioned which strike is it and if he's taken a position anywhere. But nevertheless, I don't know how active or how tradable are Eicher Motors options. Overall on the charts, how is Eicher Motors looking to you? It's down about 1% in trade right now. Would you suggest someone to take a fresh bet here?
Yep, if someone is willing to trade Eicher Motors, the bet should be on the short side. Looks like it has witnessed a strong resistance on the upside, and it is headed downwards towards the 19,500 odd levels. I'm also not very sure if the call option or the put options are liquid. So definitely it'll be better to trade on the futures. It is headed downwards. You can keep a stop loss of 20,500 for your shorts and go short.
Okay, well, we have two viewers who are interested in the 12,400 Nifty call, and they're both looking to sell. So we have Ravi Olak, who is looking to sell or has already sold the Nifty 12,400 call. We also have Lalit Akhare, who has sold the Nifty 12,400 call, but this is January 16, that is this weekly option. The question is, should I exit or, well, after looking at today's open, that's the question here. So 12,400 is not too far away from, of course, current market levels, considering the spot is already trending above 12,300. Amar, what's your view on the 12,400 call? Let's assume it's the weekly expiry, this week's expiry.
I would say that one can hold on to the position. What one needs to watch out for is that today's low is something which is going to be very important. If that is broken or breached in the next hour or so, then they could witness some sell-off. Otherwise, we could see that the index could trade higher.
That's the market call for you, Nifty that is. And remember, we've sustained above those levels of 12,300 for the time being. That's a positive sign. And some incremental gains coming in the last 10 to 15 minutes. Across the board, there is buying. All sectoral indices also trade with gains. I just want to highlight a few stocks before we wrap the show. Manappuram Finance is trending higher. So that stock's trading very close to its life high levels. It's up 3% in trade. So watch out for this one. And we've seen a remarkable move for Tata Global Beverages in the recent past. That stock's also up and about today, and that too is trading at its life high. So watch out here as well. And from the FMCG space, you've also got something like Dabur, which is up 2%. And NIT Tech, remember we highlighted for you, this is now trading above its buyback price, which was announced in the month of December, which is 17.25. And the stock's moved quite remarkably in the last 1 month since the time that news came about. On the losing side, of course, Yes Bank is your top loser. Profit booking seen in something like Sun TV, and also Bharti Infratel seems to be weak in today's trade. Agam.
All right. Well, there you have it. Unfortunately, guys, we've run out of time on the show, so we won't be able to take many more queries, at least for now. But well, don't forget to log on to our BloombergQuint website, specifically the futures and options pages. But I'm going to take a moment to thank both our experts, Amar and Nirav, for joining us and taking us through their views on the markets and, of course, solving a whole host of our viewer queries.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the F&O Show. Thanks a lot for watching. Stay tuned to BloombergQuint for more news and updates.